another day in the Virtue Cafe. I'm Segilola Salami, and it's the Segilola Salami Show. And we're really enjoying the sunshine in London this last few weeks. It's nice and sunny, and we've had time to go to the museum. We went to the London Transport Museum, which was really nice. And my little human, she got the chance to drive virtual or simulation trains, which was really cool. So we've tried to make the best of the lovely weather. And so today then calls for a nice, cool lemonade as well. The other day we went into the garden and had a nice little barbecue. So I thought we would cool down today with some orange and lemon drink. So who have I got here with me today? Let's see how else we're going to cool down this hot day.
Hi, this is Melisa Ruscsak, author of the Light and Dark series. I have the first two out. The third one's coming out probably at the end of this month. And I do all the covers myself, all the mock-ups, digital art, and stuff like that is done by me. But the editing's done by my 15-year-old autistic daughter.
Wow, that sounds really amazing. Well, my little girl, she said she wanted to say hello today because I didn't let her say hello last week. So come and say hello.
Hello.
Hi, little one.
Say, how are you?
How are you?
Good, and you?
Got my stuff.
She's trying to show you her socks, but then she can't see you though. She can only hear you. Did you have fun at the museum yesterday?
Yeah.
And we got to see a magician in Covent Garden.
Oh, did you? Those are always fun.
I know. Did you enjoy the magician yesterday?
Yeah.
Was it fun?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So see you later.
See you later.
See you.
Good. Right. So I'm quite intrigued. You did your covers yourself for your book.
Yes. I do all my own digital art, front and back.
Are you a professional book cover designer?
I'm just getting into doing it professionally.
How did you start?
Figuring it out on Photoshop and then into doing different programs and then blending the programs, bridge it and over. It just makes sense to me.
Okay, cool. So now I'm quite curious though. So you said you're an author of the Light and Dark series. You've done 2 books and you've got a 3rd coming out, right? Did I remember correctly?
Yes.
So when did you decide you wanted to go into writing?
My soon-to-be ex-husband is the one that said, "You're always writing little fan fictions. Why don't you write something for yourself and see if you can get it published?" This took place in 2016. And he challenged me to do this with the first book, which is The New Reign. And then from The New Reign, once I got done with that, I was like, wait, this needs a prequel to understand everything that's happening. And of course, once you get a prequel, you are left with, okay, there's so much backstory in between the 2 books. So I needed to make another book that's actually 4 novelettes inside of 1 book, to explain what happens between the first book, the second book, and leading into the final book.
Ah, interesting. So your soon-to-be ex-husband challenged you. How did you, so when you, I mean, obviously writing, I think, is probably the easiest thing to do in the whole publishing journey. So when you decided, you were going to you take up the challenge, you finish writing your book, how did you go about publishing it?
I've published this now 3 different times. The first time I did a complete DIY indie publishing through one of our bookstores here in America. And then I got picked up by a publisher, small house. And then the publisher, well, something happened and I need a new publisher. So now I'm with Wild Dreams through Australia and loving them so much.
Okay, fabulous. And when did you decide that you could do a fabulous job of creating your book cover design yourself?
When I started the very first cover that was DIY I did, I was kind of satisfied with it, but I was just learning the programs. And then the publisher that took over from the DIY, she did a cover. I was not satisfied. I said, I can do a better cover than this. I know I can. So when I took it to Wild Dreams, I designed the cover. And then with my pending divorce, I had to change my cover. So now the book's getting a completely new, awesome cover that I also designed.
Right. Okay. So, when did you think you could do the design yourself, the cover design yourself? And how did you approach doing it? Because obviously, if it's something you're not skilled at doing, you would have what sort of processes, steps did you follow before you got to the final work?
I started off with print shop, and I started with, okay, I need imaging. So I found a free, royalty-free site, started downloading pictures, and then taking stuff out of the picture that I need, like a dress or a stone balcony, and then taking out everything but that balcony, and then making layers upon the layers. It's very hard to do, very time consuming, but extremely rewarding.
How did you learn to do it though?
I can't explain that because this is just something I did. It's not something I learned. It's just something, oh, that looks cool. So I play around with the programs.
Okay, what programs? See, because I'm trying to think, because I'm a big believer in continuing professional development. I mean, people would not think of writing books as, a profession or, something you need to develop yourself at. But I think, whatever it is you do, you could get transferable skills. So I'm quite curious now, what programs did you use?
Okay, I have a Corel print shop plus Adobe print shop. And then I have DAZ 3D, and then I bridged the three.
Wow, those three sound really professional.
They are.
So how did you decide on them, and why do you stick with the three of them? What does each of them do?
Okay, I started off with the free trials for Adobe and Corel before I even tried to purchase the programs, because I needed to make sure it's user friendly, because there's a lot of great programs out there that are just too confusing for me and I can't use it. So I started off with those ones, and then the Corel, I can take the background imaging out with them. Adobe, I can morph it so it's different angles on the picture that I'm wanting. Like if I want the character on the book to stand at an angle instead of just facing a certain way, I can do that. I can resize without you losing quality of the image, or make it bigger without losing the quality. And then DAZ, I can create a 3D image directly on there and then save it as a PNG, and then put that PNG on either Corel or Adobe.
Wow, that's amazing. Wow, I've never actually thought about, the different, I mean, I didn't even think it was possible to do that. I mean, I don't normally do my covers, but then I have attempted to do stuff, and I use, what is it that I use? I use like a free online thing, just sort of simple editing and copy and pasting. So that's why I kind of leave the professional stuff to the professionals. But maybe now someone listening in could go and sort of try the free trials and see how user friendly it is, especially for someone who doesn't have any experience. Okay, no, that sounds good. And then your daughter, tell us about your daughter.
My daughter is 15, so she's been my editor since the very beginning. She gets on me because in my books, there's a reason for my madness, I swear, but I put a letter in my books to try to explain this. I have incorrect words, misspelled words, and misplaced punctuation. This is intentional for the story, and probably makes sense to no one until you read the final book. But she corrects everything. Then afterwards, I have to go back through and uncorrect some of the things that she's corrected. She's my little grammar Nazi.
Oh, that's nice. So it's a mother-daughter combo in publishing your books.
Yes.
And how has that been working out for the two of you?
Excellent. She loves to read, and she's the one that came up with the title Light and Dark. And then I took from Light and Dark, okay, how can I make a novel with that title? Well, what if it's not the title of the novel, the title of the series? So I went from there and created the entire series based on her suggestion of the title.
No, that's really good. Oh, but you know what? She really did an amazing job in picking the title of the series, because for someone who loves fantasy as much as I do, you know, it's very engaging, and it makes me want to read the book. It's been over a year. I can't even remember the last time I picked up any novel to read. I haven't done much writing. I haven't done much reading myself. So, you know, I feel I've been spurred on to want to try and read your book. I mean, for how many minutes I can spare to do it. So no, well done on for your daughter for picking the title. So 2 books down, almost 3 in the bag. What have you learned from going through this journey?
That you have to keep on the marketing, and each one I get to add a little bit more. As I go through the series, I'm more relaxed, taking on the role of writing, but the characters, no matter how I try to have a direction, a lot of times they take over the story and they're going to do what they want to do.
Oh, fabulous. See, now I'm very curious though. Can you read from your book for a little bit? Let's get a snippet, look inside to your book.
Right here.
Go.
Okay, so I'm going to be reading from the prologue of The New Ring.
Mm-hmm.
And here we go. The candles flickered within his study deep below the castle of bones. Like so many nights before she studies on the ongoings of the living. Study the ongoings of the star cities, looking for the prophecy to be filled. With the sea of stone resting on the table before him, Carnet set his quill back into the inkwell. For more than 3,000 years, he had been doing in death what he had been done in life, watching history unfold and keeping a detailed account for his queen. A queen who even he had not seen since the time of the Great War. No, that wasn't completely true. He had seen her, but only a very few times, and only to beg for her help. Even then, her rage had begun to be being disturbed. He sighed. There was nothing he could do for the queen, at least not yet. His eyes closed but for a moment before he once again gazed into the sea of stone, and once again he waited for the child to be born that his queen had seen so many years before. A child who would be born a creator, a child, a queen, who would be able to defeat a threat that was still in the shadows of the great star cities. The rest of the Fae, who had settled this land, had already given up ever finding this child. Nico had changed his name 2 or 3 times in the past 3 centuries, as had Ian and Donnie, the great warrior. He had completely sealed himself off from the world shortly after Medrin had fallen from the star cities. Of the 4 of them, none had ever been able to find out what had ever happened to their queen's only child, a baby known only as Ari. His father had been the cause of their queen's withdrawal from the realm, yet he had held out hope that one day he would be able to find this chosen queen and give her the crown of the dead, a crown that would give her the power to stand and face a threat that only she would be able to defeat. A token tap in the study door that he ignored. Then a soft, breezy female voice. Karnak, are you still watching the little stone? He barely glanced over his shoulder to the woman who was just as beautiful today as she had been when he first laid eyes on her, and just as deadly. Turning slightly, he watched her lean on the door frame. His eyes narrowed as he hissed, I am the scribe to the queen, and I will be the one to see this chosen queen long before any other. When she didn't say anything further, he turned back to his ledger and began to write another line. Pulling a knife from her belt, she leaned on the wall, watching him. Write some mindless dribble that none would ever read. A soft smile touched the blood-red lips. When you find her, tell me. Now make sure no harm ever comes to her way. At that he turned and fought hard to remind himself that the fae that stood before him was a friend. Fought harder to remember she would never truly harm him. Freya, darling, if what I know for fact ever comes to pass, then even you would need help protecting her. Her heeled boots clicked on the stone floor as she drew closer. When she reached his working desk, she whispered into his ear, You let me worry about that. Part 1, 280 years ago. Larna, Princess of Faen. Chapter 1. She stood towering over her mother's body. Her black crystal sword plunged into the heart of the woman who had given her life. Her eyes narrowed into tiny slits as she held back her black translucent wings still, listening to the single sound of her own heart beating against the silence. Her head slowly turned to glance over her shoulder. Her father's lifeless head on the floor but a few feet away from where his body had fallen. He had been the last Faen warrior to fall, the last before her mother. At least there she had fallen a worthy adversary to face. Well, at least she too had faltered and died. A cruel smile formed on her dark crimson-colored lips as she stood there silently, watching her mother's blood start to pool around her lifeless body. Not the red lifeblood that most fae had. Oh no, her mother's lifeblood was midnight blue, an oddity unto itself. Watching the blood seeping out of the body, Larna could have spat on her mother's face for making her take this drastic measure. But if she did, it would ruin her plans, and that she wouldn't do, no matter the price. You should have listened to me, Mother. Now look what has become of you. No longer will you be able to listen to anyone. A justice that serves you right, but never hearing the truth that's set before your own eyes. Pulling her black crystal blade free from her mother's heart, she used it to cut the fabric of her golden gown. Methodically, she made sure the cuts on the fabric mirrored the cuts on her own skin. She had to make sure the cuts were shallow enough to not to hinder her movements, but deep enough to look like she had escaped the slaughter. Escaping as the last surviving heir, the last of her mother's bloodline, and escaping as the only living royal fae in all of Faen. After all, anyone who had seen anything was already bound to her. Their memories were whatever she decided that they would be. Right now, in this moment, she chose for them all to believe a hooded man had stormed into the castle, coming from out of nowhere and swallowing all that had been in his way. A cloud, a mist had hidden him until the very moment he had killed his first victim. Yes, that would do nicely. As for the man, oh, well, she had a plan for that too. Madrin was either they were going to marry her, for every Faen citizen would believe he had been behind the massacre. After all, there wasn't a single person alive that didn't know how powerful he truly was, nor how dangerous. Nor would any ever question his motives, power, greed, bloodlust. It wouldn't matter what they chose to speculate. his very denials would be only further their own convictions of his guilt. Should I read more?
Yes, hi. No, that was really lovely. So what part of the book did you get to? Was that at the end of chapter 1?
That is the beginning of chapter 1 in the middle. It's cut up into sections. So chapter 1 actually has like 3 sections to it.
Ah, okay. No, that sounds quite interesting. Well, listeners, if you like what you've read so far, please do go and get your copy and try to, of the book to listen to or read the rest of it. I thought that was quite interesting. So what final words of wisdom would you give to anyone who's just starting out in the publishing business?
Don't give up. Don't take no for an answer. If you have the will and the drive, you will succeed. And do your own social media marketing constantly.
That sounds like really good advice, and I think it's been a trend because most of the time when I've had authors on the show, I tend to ask that question, and a lot of time people say don't give up, do your own marketing, do all the work yourself. And I've had people who've worked with traditional publishers, and then they still opt to self-publish, and been a range of different types of authors, and it's sort of quite interesting that everyone seems to think don't give up. So it is a long, difficult journey, but just don't give up. So that's definitely wise advice.
It's probably the best advice I was ever given.
Oh, cool. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, and thank you for reading from your book as well.
And thank you very much for having me on your show today.
Are you on social media?
I am on social media. I'm on Facebook. You can find me at Of Light and Dark on Facebook. You can find me on my website, which is M.L.Ruscsak.com. And that has the links to any and everything that you can think of, as well as other authors that I've had the privilege of interviewing myself.
Oh, fabulous, fabulous. Well, thank you so much for making the time to come and chat with us today. I really enjoyed your company.
Was a pleasure being here today.
Okay, everyone. Well, I'm going to go and try and enjoy the rest of this sunny day that we have, because I know this is London and the sunshine will not last, even though we're supposed to be entering summer. So I'm going to go out and do that, and I hope to catch you all later on the Segilola Salami Show. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.